Let's talk about speech choir. Speech choir is a group performance that recites speeches in unison, often with elements of choreography and costuming to help bring the speech to life. It is also called speech choir or choral speaking that has a hallowed and proud tradition. The first play put on by the Greeks featured choruses of speakers. Speech choir operates like a music choir minus the music. Instead of singing, speech choirs perform spoken word pieces. Speech choir is a powerful art that is experiencing a revival. There is a tremendous satisfaction that comes from learning to speak well, and even a greater enjoyment that comes from speaking elegantly and powerfully as a group. A speech choir is an interpretative reading of a text by a group of performers. In unison, a group of voices reads a poem or a song. Assigned soloists may also read individual lines or stanzas. Sometimes, the group may opt to repeat lines or passages for added effect. This is especially suited to lyric poems or poems which contain rhymes and sound devices. In addition, a verse choir is a group of people experiencing together, expressing thoughts and feelings largely and freely for the purpose of communicating with each other, and an audience being led by a director and adapting themselves to the disciplines of the art of group of oral interpretation. Today, speech choir is a popular teaching tool as well as a performing art in itself. Let's talk about the types of speech choir. We have conventional speech choir, or what we call traditional speech choir. It does not require to use costumes, props, nor choreography. The choir just simply speaks or reads a literary piece. The second one is what we call dynamic speech choir, or it is also called as theatrical speech choir, which makes use of props, costumes, and sometimes choreography. It is the reverse of the conventional speech choir. Moving on, speech choir has elements. These are members, piece, costuming, choreography, voice quality, power, pitch, staging. Let's talk about members. The speech choir is typically the same size of singing choir, having anywhere from 12 to 100 members or more. However, most schools and competitions feature choir of 25 to 40 members. The group is typically are divided into groups based on the members' natural voices or speaking voices. The second one is what called pieces. Selections are typically poems or poetic passages, such as from Greek dramas or Shakespeare's plays. The conductor gives some thought to the passage, breaking into parts. Facial expressions and intonation are also carefully planned so all the members can practice in unison. Solo parts for specific members can add dramatic effect. The third one is choreography. Choreography of movement is not necessary component for speech choir. Many successful competition choirs recite their pieces while standing in place with their hands at their sides, attention directly solely at the conductor. Also, choreography is the sequence of steps and movement in dance, and in Greek tradition, speech choir march from side to side in alternating patterns. This movement is a part of the rich history of speech choir, and some conductors choose to choreograph elaborate movement to accompany their pieces. Costuming. As with any other performance art, thought should be into how the speech choir will dress. Costumes can be as simple as matching outfits or robes such as vocal choir would wear, or elaborate the theatrical garb. Plain uniforms allow the audience to concentrate on facial expressions and allow the choir to recite several very different pieces in one performance. Themed costume for a single piece can highlight its meaning or help to differentiate between voice groups. Next is voice quality, the ability to combine successfully the light, medium, and dark voices in the choir. It is also the ability to communicate through voice, reactions to thoughts, or emotions. Pitch. Pitch refers to the variation of the voice on the musical scale and is generally referred to as the inflection. Children generally have little problem with pitch because they use it naturally and freely. Power. It's the ability to use volume, force, or loudness as emphasis in appropriate places to better express feeling and meaning. A power build should be related to the elements of sentence and growing emotion. Tempo. Tempo refers to the rate of speed at which reading progresses, the ability to balance the rhythm of piece and the tempo of performance, and tempo should be related to the central beat of the poem. If it's too fast or too slow. Staging. The ability to successfully organize and position the choir on stage or risers for the performance effect. It's also the ability to stage entrances and exits, which enhance the mood of the poem and the performance. The ability to costume speakers in a way which also enhances the performance as a whole. Here are some guidelines you need to consider when performing a speech choir. As a group, discuss the piece for the speech choir performance. Be sure that you meet the group to explore the central issues, conflicts, and themes of the piece. It is important that all members understand the piece. Most likely, each member will have different interpretations of the poem. Come up with an interpretation that each member agrees to. Use this as a concept for your speech choir. Memorize the piece. As soon as the piece is released, all members should make an effort to familiarize themselves with the poem. It is also important that all members have a printed copy of the piece for annotation. Explore the poem's language. Unlike prose, poetry is more rhythmic and it has musical quality. Identify the sound devices and refrain used in the poem. Use these to your advantage. You may repeat refrains or other important lines. Also, be sure to clarify meanings of difficult words as well as figurative language in the poem. Help each other annotate. Drill the correct pronunciation. Allot time for the group to have pronunciation drills. Be sure to look at all words of the text and identify correct pronunciation of each word. Use internet resources to determine correct pronunciation. Arrange the class into groups and assign solo parts. The common voice groups are light, medium, and dark. Typically, female students with soft voices fall in the light voice group. Female students with deep voices go to the medium voice group, while male students with very deep voices belong to dark voice group. Once the groups are identified, the class can play with the tempo, volume, and blending of the voices. Assign roles and solo parts to individuals or small groups. Incorporate appropriate gestures and movements. In order to make performance lively, the group should integrate appropriate movements and gestures. Be careful not to make the movements overwhelming for the members and which might distract them from reciting the piece properly. Consider the visual impacts of your performance. Be creative in considering formations, costumes, props, and music, but keep this to a minimum. Too much of these elements may distract the audience from listening. Think about the color scheme and geometric shapes that promote harmony. Consider differentiating the costumes of soloists. And lastly, rehearse the piece. The group should speak in unison and they should be synchronized in their actions. There should be no interruptions or hesitations in reciting the piece. Practice extensively. That would be all. Thank you.